Good afternoon from my current bedroom in Gilly, everybody. Welcome. It is Hanifa Menon from hearthealthbrainhealth.com, encouraging healthy grieving and mindful actions. Today I want to do the second video for this new series, and I thought I'd start with pointing out some details that when I share them with you, they will sound very, very logical. And yet, most people are not practicing from this logical space of awareness and compassion. And so I thought I'd start with this first quotation. This whole video is going to be about different pain. And so this quotation says, "Our stories are different. Our pain is the same. Our stories are different. Our pain is the same." And a lot of people would say, no way. If someone has dealt with someone dying, for example, and it's just happened right now, and I'm dealing with a really bad cold that I can't get to work, our pain is different. Isn't it? Pain, as just a concept, pain is the same. So the person who is missing work might think, oh boy, if I was getting a day off, I wish I felt better to actually enjoy the day off. And they're so concerned because suddenly, what if I can't pay this month's bills because I can't go to work today? So that's a pain. Another pain is the actual experience of loss through death. And we would think that aren't those completely different things? No, the experience of pain. And this is a psychological experience. This is the psychological space that feels this is from an emotional space. And those of you who have done grief recovery with me certainly know that grief is the same. The grief is the same, the stories are different, and each person feels grief as a significant impact. So grief, you would learn with me, and again, this is a reminder for anyone who has already done grief recovery with me in the past, know that grief is felt as 100% for any person experiencing it. And that is a type of pain. So then I wanted to make sure I shared this quotation, which says, please try not to judge how someone is dealing with a pain you have never experienced. Please try not to judge how someone is dealing with a pain you have never experienced. Now that sounds logical. Well, I guess I don't know what it feels like. I've never been in that situation. But what happens is oftentimes people will start comparing. So remember this beginning introduction that I mentioned was very clear that pain is different, but the experience of it is the same. So the stories are different, but the experience is the same. And so two siblings could lose the same parent, and one sibling will feel it in a particular way, another will feel it in a different way, but each will be going through pain. And each sibling, as I've often heard, often feels, well, I'm over it, so how come the other one's not over it? And because the other one is not the same. And partly it's going to be the experience of one person with another is going to be different than the other sibling with the parent. And partly it could be twins. It's not the genetics of the people that matters. It's their own mental processing of their life experiences that signifies or shapes, conditions, how they respond to loss or pain. And yes, if someone was really close with someone, maybe they feel their pain is very strong. I have seen people who are very close with a person that they've lost in terms of a death, who are very content that we had the best relationship. I'm just so happy we had that. And I guess I could be one of those people too. No, I am one of those people because I had a fantastic relationship with my brother. And yes, I grieved the death, and yet, boy, I knew it was right, and I knew that the work that he needed to do here is done. Now you can see I have some faith. I believe that there's a reason for everything. And so his life and death was a blessing for me, and my life and death may be a blessing for another. But I have to begin with myself. And when I'm thinking about pain or loss, and you see, my work is certainly focused on these areas because I know that so many people are going through so many different experiences and then comparing with each other. Sometimes people that they know, and sometimes people that they don't know. And this is where many of us have talked, I guess, on social media, and sometimes it's written on social media. I would say that we talk about it. Do we practice it consciously for ourselves? So rather than judging someone else, well, they don't know what I'm going through, so I'm going to feel that they're not very helpful to me. That's something that I can understand, that no one can understand our own pain the way we will understand it. And so there's also this awareness that pain often doesn't come alone. There could be some fear for one person. There could be some joy for another person. There could be some worry for another person. There could be financial concerns for another person. There could be loneliness for another person. So again, pain carries a lot with it in different aspects. Pain also carries happiness and joy and love. And that often is recognized once someone has done a bit of work to understand themselves better and a process better. So I also thought this quotation was very helpful. This one says, everyone has untold stories of pain and sadness that make them love and live a little differently than you do. Stop judging, instead try to understand. Let me try that one more time. Everyone has untold stories of pain and sadness that make them love and live a little differently than you do. Stop judging, instead try to understand. Stop judging. If I do not even live in the environment that another person is living in, and I automatically think they must feel like this, that's a judgment. It might even be I've spoken to a person from there who feels like this. Then I can say that person expressed that they feel like this, but I cannot assume that I really understand how they feel. I might repeat words that they say. I might repeat a feeling that I gathered from their experience in that communication, if there was communication. I might just see visual images and things like the news and feel like I know. I don't know. And that is a very important aspect, that this is what this mind understands out of this experience. And this trying to understand first our own mind is really important. Then when we're looking at another, to try to come from a place of understanding the other, knowing the biases we might have ourselves. So I've heard some people who will say, well, they've lost their parent and I lost my parent, I'm fine, and I was really fine in a month, in 2 months, in a year, maybe 5 years, and yet it's not your experience. And that understanding opens up so much compassion. Rather than feeling, well, I know what that should feel like because I've been through it. You haven't been through it because you haven't been that person. So that's very, very important. So sometimes it's the same story. We think it's the same story, yet it's how our mind thinks. It doesn't mean that it's how that person's mind thinks. And our thinking is shaped and conditioned by our own experiences and not the other person's. And remember, we're all carrying a lifetime of experiences with us, no matter what age we are. We can say this child is 5, they haven't had a lifetime. Their lifetime is 5 years old. And in their lifetime, they might have seen lots and heard lots and felt lots, perhaps not expressed lots. And then that comes up through adulthood too. And this I thought was very important too, because as we grow into adulthood, and again, some children go through this very, very early, which I will talk about in the future videos too, about how this can be such a blessing as well. This says, so different types of pain can all exist at once. It's not a competition of who has it worse, and someone else's pain doesn't take away from your own. So many times people, I know that I've heard this a lot in North America, of, well, you don't like your meal today, but there's struggling people in Africa who don't even have food to eat, so you should be grateful and like your food. If you are in pain, if you absolutely are eating something that is disgusting and you feel like it's painful, that's your pain, and nothing takes away from that. Even the truth of others are struggling, others might not have a meal, even that's truth. Yet we've become used to dismissing our pain. So saying, oh yeah, that's not that important. Or yes, my parent died, 10 years ago, and this person's parent just died today. So I should be in less pain than they should be. So this is again where this comparison comes in. This is how much time this person has gone through pain, and I've had more time. Perhaps I've had less time. So my ego likes to feel like, well, mine just happened. So I'm justified in feeling this pain right now. And they're not justified because they've had a lot more time to deal with it. They should be over it. My judgment. This understanding of pain and how it requires each individual's own processing is really, really important. And what affects one person does not affect another too. So two people can go through exactly the same situation. As I mentioned, the parent that passes away for one situation, where even two siblings will see it in different ways. And for neither one to judge the other, that is love and compassion. And not just tolerating that, well, they've always been like that. They're a drama queen. They always make a big deal about everything. So I'm not surprised that they're still talking about they're grieving about this. If they're grieving. Just send love and compassion. And perhaps you can't sit in that space to hear it again and again and again. Maybe for 1 year you could, for 2 years you could, for 10 years maybe you could not. And then understand and have compassion for your own mind, which had its limit or has its limit of this is how much I can handle. And maybe this shows me how much is in my own mind right now. This whole series is for us to understand ourselves. And really, really important that we spend some time to understand ourselves, because as we don't understand ourselves, we shed all sorts of judgment, opinions, beliefs, and not so positive energy around. And I'm not saying that we need to look at everything positively, because sometimes things are really not positive, but we can actually express through a place of compassion for ourselves and for others at the same time. That is a skill, an art, a learning that then moves into an acceptance of something else is also helping us understand when we really want to understand something. If you go to bed sometimes and you have some concern that's really strong in your mind, you really want to understand it, and you say, okay, that's all, I can't think about it anymore, I just can't find a solution. Have you ever had that situation where you wake up in the morning and suddenly you've got a solution? How did that happen? So this is that unknown space, which I also will be talking about in these videos. I wanted to talk about this quotation too in this video. Life is not pain versus happiness. This is really important because a lot of times when someone is going through pain and they see someone who is happy, they will automatically feel, well, they're in a good spot, I'm not. And it's interesting how the human mind does this constantly, because again, it's comparing that I'm not happy, I'm in pain, and I see someone in happiness. So this quotation literally says, life is not pain versus happiness. One does not replace the other. So after I've had a good cry and then I put a smile on, and am I happy now? Well, I actually do feel happier than before the cry, but the happiness does not replace the pain. So this is very important. This says they exist together. Happiness doesn't arrive as a replacement. It arrives to assist you in carrying the weight of the pain. It arrives to assist you in carrying the weight of the pain. This is such an important concept, and this is really linked to that story I just mentioned of going to bed and waking up kind of lighter, kind of, wow, that concern I had, I actually have a solution and I feel lighter. And sometimes a cry can make someone feel lighter. So there's that happiness and that real ease for a moment. It does not replace the pain. There are ways to actually focus on how to not replace the pain, but understand how these two coexist together, happiness and pain. It's certainly the work of grief recovery, which, when I get back to Canada, whenever I do, I will be working on. For now, this series is to help us understand that this happens everywhere. This happens in every field, in professional lives, in personal lives. And this also is something that we can really help one another by just the energy of understanding each other. In understanding each other, many of us, and this is now directed more towards anyone who's got a true compassion for someone. So whether it's a family member or whether it's because that's the work you do and you're working in healthcare, or maybe you're in HR and you care about the employees and what their experiences are in a workplace, this is an important concept for us to remember too. And I'm being reminded about it regularly myself, because this journey of healing and understanding and growing and evolving is everlasting. It is continuous, moment by moment. This quotation says, "You cannot heal a person who keeps using their pain as an excuse to hurt you." Read that again. You cannot heal a person who keeps using their pain as an excuse to hurt you. Who does that? Many times people will say, "You just don't understand me." And so I'm not speaking well to you. Yes, I yelled at you earlier because I'm hurting. It happens to be this day in my life, and you haven't even commented on it. Has this ever happened to you? Where it's like, you knew this was my performance review day and you haven't even asked about it. And now I'm hurting because you didn't ask. And this whole idea of my pain. So I was concerned about my performance review perhaps in the morning. And by the time I'm back in the late afternoon, evening, night, and I see a friend or partner or spouse, and they haven't asked me, and then I throw this at them that, well, I'm hurting because this happened this morning, you don't even remember. I can't keep using that pain to hurt another person. So not in that day, yet lots of people will do this over time too. That, well, I've lost 3 members of my family, so I've lost 3 members, and you've only lost 1. You don't even know how it feels. Or I was very close to my family and you don't even know. I've lost 3 jobs in my life and you have only lost 1. This comparison and measurement is really not helpful. Not at any time, not immediately when we hear about someone else going through any unease, or when we're working through our own unease and we start comparing that, well, that person got through theirs pretty quick, so I should be getting through mine. I only have to understand where I am at, and this series is for us to understand where we are at. So again, in healthcare, oftentimes we feel this way that maybe a healthcare professional might feel this way of, I've been listening to stories all day long and this person comes in and says, "You're not listening to me." And so I might say, why? Well, I've been listening to people all day long. I'm sorry. I've got lots of things on my mind. Your pain is not an excuse to hurt another. And in healthcare, we walk that fine line regularly. Sometimes we don't speak those words, and oftentimes we do not. But sometimes it's our energy that speaks before anything comes out of our mouths, that we don't have the same energy. We can put a smile on our face, and let us recognize that healthcare, today I want you to know that I include volunteers in healthcare. We are affecting one another, whether we are paid for the work or whether we do it from the goodness of our heart in family, friends, or workplaces. Today, I want us to remember that pain affects all of us, and to have that understanding and compassion for ourselves and the world around us is a fantastic place to start. Today, I hope that you are able to reflect for 5 minutes at least, just after this video, to think, are there places where someone has been hurting around you that you haven't put your all in terms of compassion towards that experience? Because if it's come to you, there's something for you to learn out of it too. I wish you a fabulous 5 minutes of contemplating, maybe the rest of the day or night, and maybe the rest of your life, which would be my hope and wish for all of us. Have a great day or night, everyone, and I hope you remember, transform your mind and transform your life. Have a good day or night, everyone. Again.